Okay, and this is the last part about segues. Now, sometimes you want to do conditional segues, like, okay, if, for example, a login, you have a username and a password, and you want to move on to the next screen only if the username and the password are correct, okay? Or you can use, sometimes you have, you want, based on certain conditions, you want to navigate to another screen and you want to do that programmatically, okay? So we can use segues programmatically. And that's what we're going to do in this video, all right? I'm going to go back to that application that we've done. And let's take a look at the view controller. Let me go back to the storyboard and take a look. So I have a text field here. I didn't show you what I put it, but I didn't say what we're going to use it for. What we're going to use it for, you're going to put a password. If you put a password, it will allow you, if you guess what the password is, it will allow you to go to the next screen, all right? So you can make this secret password by making it like a password. You can use secure text so you don't see it, but for now, just leave it as is, okay? So what I want to do is that I want to, when I type in 123, it will take me to this screen. Otherwise, you stay on this screen. We can update this label, say it's wrong guess, right? So we can say, if you go back to the view controller, we have the prepare for segue, but there's another important function, which is, again, this function is in the view controller. It's called shouldPerform segue. Select that. Now, what does that do? This is a function that receives the segue identifier, this identifier, the name, so you can determine which segue should you execute, all right? And the sender, the object that sent that segue. But it expects you to return true or false. So in here, you can say, should I perform this segue or not? And I'm going to give you an answer back, either true or false. Since we're dealing with this screen one, only I don't need to use identifier. But if you do want to use identifier, you can use the identifier. If identifier equals screen2, then perform the following, right? Okay. So let me just use it anyway. So if you say if identifier equal what? Equal screen2 again, I want to check to give you permission to go to there or not. I'm going to say another if statement. If the statement here says we have a text field, right? We have a text field, text pass. If we say if txt pass dot text, and if it is equal to 123, they don't know that. They're only seeing this screen. I'm going to return what? If that happens, I will return true. Otherwise, the only way it would get returned this is that from here, all right? The only way it returns true if it goes through this condition and this is true, then it will go, right? Okay, else what? Else you would return false. Okay. Now this is a little bit of complicated if statement, just not to confuse you. The reason I'm saying that is that so you do this, you return true for every other segue, because it's expecting you to return something. Here it returns something if this condition or this condition is true, right? So if only if screen one is that, because we have because of this if statement, it looks as if you gotta pass a value back, and right now you're only passing me value back if you're checking for screen two. So just everything else, I'm gonna say return true. All right. Right. So that it'll be happy, okay? So if we have multiple segues, just like we do, if it's not screen two, it will return true. That means I'm gonna allow you to go to the next screen. If it is screen two, I'm gonna make sure that you actually typed in 123. If you did type in 123, then I'm gonna return true and allow you to go there. Otherwise, I'm gonna return false. And I'm going to update the label. Says lbl1.text, say try again, equal try again. Okay, it's like that. Now watch what happens. If we run it, you see here, if I type in DDD and I click on this one, and it's not going. But why it did not update the label? It should have updated the label here. All right, again, time for what? Time for breakpoints. Okay, again, we did the same mistake. No, should be fine. Let's put a breakpoint here and see what's happening. All right, a good example of using debugger. So we click on, let's run it again. And see what's happening. Oh, I know why it's not saying try again. I already see it. This try again is in the true. That should not be here. That should be here. Okay, right? That should be here. Try again, not there, right? But it did not, at least that part did not go through, right? It didn't go to the next screen. So if I type in AAA, it's slow for some reason. All right, and if I type in anything here, if I click on try again, click on try me, it says try again, right? Now, if I click on, I have another button, right? If I click on this, it took me there, no problem, right? Why? Because we said, I'm only checking this button. Why? How did we do that? We said only if I'm executing segue 2, which is a segue with screen to identifier. So it will not let you go to the next screen. Now, if I type in, if we say, this is going to be interesting. I'll explain it why. If I type in here 1, 2, 3, and I say try again, it will work. Well, look at that. ABC also stayed there. I mean, it also passed ABC. How did that happen? Okay, and it's going to give me back that AAA. Well, how did that happen? Okay, well, should perform segue and prepare for segue has an order, have an order of execution. What does that mean? It means I'm going to execute this first. Okay, I'm going to check if this condition is true, and I'm going to tell you yes or no. But this one will get executed whenever you're transitioning. So if I say yes, it's okay, it will still execute this function and take you to the next screen, and then you get the view controller and you still pass the information. So if you want to pass information to the next screen, you still have to use prepare for segue. But if you want to know when to go or not, we use perform for segue. All right. And all right, so that is how we pass how do we do conditional? All right. Now, how do we do it programmatically? How do we say I want to perform a particular segue using code? All right. So let's take a look at this this one. Okay, and this is we're going to cover the last part here. And what I did, and just to take a little bit break, what I want you to do is add another view controller. And in this section, I'm going to show you how we execute a segue using code programmatically, all right? And you can use conditions and all of that, all right? Because you have more flexibility when you do things programmatically. All right, so we have a button here, and this button, we had it before, and it took you to the screen, okay? So this is the segue for the first one. This is the segue for the second one. I'm going to go ahead and delete this segue. So I only have this segue for this button. Now, I'm going to watch, because if you connect it from here to here, it will execute every time you click on that button, unless you have that should perform segue. The other way, you can actually connect it from the view controller itself to another view controller. So you can select it. You click on here from the view controller. Let me zoom in so you can see it. Okay, here. So if you click from here to here, right click from here to here, again, you get the similar functions. You can do a manual segue, and I'm going to show, in this case, I will use show, right? This is the important part here. You have to give it an identifier, because right now you need to run it, and the way you run it, you need to get, you use its name. So you go in here and you say, for example, third, just third, okay? And now this button, because we're using code, it need to have an action, IB action, okay? Again, you can use it for login, all sorts of stuff. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to create an IB action for this, and we don't have the segue anymore. And I'm going to say screen 3 here. Or go to screen 3. Okay, go to screen 3, right? And then hit, it's not an outlet, it's an action. Did I not do it for the button? I did it for the view. All right, so that was a typical, this is a typical mistake again. So make sure that it is the outlet. Okay, so it's an action, the button, so you say go to screen 3, all right? And then you say connect. So I got my action. The way you execute or perform a particular segue is that you go to here, to the view controller, and it's a simple line. Now, if you want to do the if statement, you can still do the if statement in here because you have flexibility. You're not tied to do it programmatically, because the way we did it from a view controller to a view controller, the only way you do it is that using code. So now here you can say perform. If you have an if statement, you can do an if statement, but I'm not going to do an if statement. You can say perform segue. Do you see that? Perform segue. And what are you going to perform? Again, here you need to give it the name of the segue, or the identifier that you give to the segue. We called it third, remember? And sender, the object that is sending the object, you can say self, okay, the class that you are that you're in. So now watch what happens. You go in here, and if I click, if I click on this button, it will take me to the third screen. You see that? Why did it do that? Because we use perform segue. So to summarize what we've done here, there is the conditional execution of segues need to be done. You can use it 2 ways. One way is that you can use shouldPerformSegue, and you have to return true or false. You use the identifier of that segue to make sure that you're checking the proper segue if you have multiple segues. And the other one is that you can use perform segue with a particular identifier, and that way you can do it. You connect from the main storyboard, you connect the view controller to a view controller like what we did in here. From here, right click, from here to here. That is it for all the possible ways, not all the possible ways, I said the common ways that you use segue in your apps, okay? And I think if you master these, you should be in a good shape. I hope you find these useful, and then if you do, please click on like, and then I'll see you on the next videos.